Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to The Wise TV with my very special guest, author Matthew C. Horne. Will be here to discuss his book, How to Be Appealing to Successful Black Men for the Black Woman, and discuss relationships. So, after we chit chat for a little bit, the link will be dropped for those who may want to join. So again, thank you to everyone that's come in. IDK, I see you already. Prompt and early, thank you. And Irfan, thank you. Thank you very much. Everyone, thank you. Gamer Pro, Hama, welcome and thank you. So let me get off this flyer. I'm here. And my guest, Mr. Horne, welcome.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
Great. How about yourself?
Good. Is the volume good?
Yeah, I hear you perfectly fine. Let me get
Okay.
myself fully in this screen real quick. I want to raise my camera up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that has me a little bit better.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, again, welcome to the broadcast and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So, I've introduced you as author, but you're also a motivational speaker. So, I'm going to give you the opportunity to give yourself the proper and full introduction as to who you are and a little bit about what you're about and what we're going to talk about this evening.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. My name is Matthew C. Horne. I'm an author and a motivational speaker and a dating coach. I'm an author of 7 books, but my books that are most relevant to the conversation tonight are my book, How to Get Beautiful Women and Everything Else You Want from Life, in addition to How to Be Appealing to Successful Black Men for Black Women. And like I said, I'm an author of 7 books. I've been a motivational speaker for roughly 17 years. I own a book publishing company as well. So I sign authors of all genres who are looking to get their message out there. And we publish books in 3 weeks. So if anyone has a book or project they'd like to get out there, just contact me. I do dating coaching. If you want to have optimal experiences with the opposite sex, then get in contact with me. We can map out a game plan. And I just overall love the space of motivation, dating, relationships, and, things like that. You can check me out at www.matthewchorne.com. You can email me at matthewchorne23@gmail.com, and follow me on social media at Matthew C. Horne. And tonight's topic is, like we stated before, how to get and keep the man that you want. Okay, I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. First question.
Sure.
If anyone were to ask you, what credentials do you have to give advice? What would your answer be?
Advice in the dating space?
Yes, sir.
Well, I honestly just have a gift and a natural understanding for it. But I've written 2 books on the subject matter that have sold all over the world.
Wow.
I began this journey. I wrote an article for the Washington Post years ago, maybe about 10 years or so ago, called "Fear of the Pretty Face."
Mm-hmm.
And I paralleled my, just the things I believed about dating in terms of why people are missing out on what they want in life. So it was fear of the pretty face. And the premise was that nothing is ever beyond your grasp if you have the audacity to approach it. And when you come face to face with it, the first realization is that it was never as far away as you perceived it to be. And so I ended the article by saying, approach her, she's waiting. And her was literal, meaning the woman that you want to approach. And it was figurative, meaning anything that you believe is beyond your grasp in life. And what happened with that is, Washington, D.C. went crazy. It was in the Root D.C. section of the Washington Post. And I said, I need to capitalize on this momentum. I got a lot of great feedback, and I wrote the book, How to Get Beautiful Women and Everything Else You Want from Life. And people have been able to transform their dating experiences and their relationship experiences. And if there's any qualifier, that's it. But the main qualifier is I believe that God gave me a gift, and it's evident that people's lives are being changed through the gifts that God gave me.
Excellent answer.
Thank you.
Excellent answer. So, make sure this is a little bit better. There. So, your book, How to Get and Keep the Man You Want. Have you received any positive feedback or any pushback from the women?
I've received both.
Both.
Yeah.
Like to elaborate?
Okay, well, the positive feedback, I had
Mhm.
women call it a game changer. It changed their perspective, it opened their eyes, and they're more poised to get the kind of men that they want. And the title of that book, once again, is How to Be Appealing to Successful Black Men for Black Women. And our show topic is going to focus on how to get and keep the man that you want. But yeah, the pushback I received was a lot of women were offended by the title. And
Yes, because I was like,
yeah, they were offended by the title. And there was my book came out April 2nd, 2020, right when the lockdown happened. Like literally like a day or two into the lockdown, that's when my book came out. And that's when Kevin Samuels started talking to Black women. So my book came out right when he started talking to Black women. And a lot of Black women,
Kevin Samuels.
Yeah, a lot of Black women didn't have the most positive opinion of him. And, I was, my book title was sort of grouped into their feelings of the men who were telling them how to be appealing already. And they didn't have such a positive response. But I just realized that my book was for who it was for. And
Yes.
A lot of women were calling me and they were contacting me. And I kind of saw something that I couldn't unsee. And the women would say, I was taken aback by your title. They weren't disrespectful. I'll give them that. They just said, hey, I was taken aback by the title. And I would ask them, I said, well, if the book was titled How to Be Appealing to Successful Black Women for Black Men, would you have a problem with it? And 100% of the women got real quiet. And I was like, hey, you asked me a question and, I'm asking you a question. And they said, no, they wouldn't have a problem with that. And that was a bit disturbing, that it's okay for a Black man to take measures to prepare for them, but it's beneath them. And it's offensive at the notion that they could improve themselves for the man that they want. And that was telling, and that explained a lot. And I'm thankful for the pushback because it allowed me to see some things that I couldn't unsee, and it gave me more clarity on the Black dating reality and experience and space.
Okay, you mentioned Black dating, but is this all inclusive?
Yeah, I mean,
is it geared more towards the Black relationships?
Well, this particular book is expressly for Black women and Black men. It's how to be appealing to successful Black men for Black women. So, yes, this one is, but overall, my message is for everyone, and I believe anyone can benefit.
Okay. Now, you mentioned a particular word in your book, successful. Define successful.
Okay.
From your perspective.
Yeah, and that's chapter 1, is what is a successful Black man? That's chapter 1 of the book. And successful means that he has sovereignty over his life, meaning that he doesn't need anything from anyone. Even if he's not quite where he wants to be, he has a vision beyond where he is. He shows up to your life and he's consistent. His word is his word. And you, by virtue of him mastering himself physically, spiritually, and emotionally and mentally, when he enters your life, even if you are elevated and you already have a good life, you're going to elevate and you're going to improve because this man has mastered himself. So a successful man is not just from a monetary standpoint and a money standpoint, but just a man who has a very firm grasp on himself and who he is. And by virtue of him understanding himself and being able to effectively lead himself, then he can be an effective leader for you as well.
Okay. Now, do you believe that there's any time or age that this should be achieved?
As far as marriage and relationships for Black women,
No, achieving the successes you just spoke on.
um, well, that's a good question. I believe that by the age of 30, uh, if a Black man isn't where he wants to be, he should at least be showing some signs of life, meaning that he has some sort of trails of results that are moving in the direction of what he said his vision is in life.
So you say 30.
30, a man should have some results in his life by 30, even if he's not, because that's still young. So
Yes.
he's probably not going to be all the way where he wants to be, but he should have a trail of results based on his dedication and commitment to whatever his vision is. There should be some signs and markers evident in his life that he's moving in the right direction.
And what would you say the first or top three would be, the signs and markers?
Well, the results in his life have to align with the vision that he has expressed for his life. Number two, the results in his life are a byproduct of his consistency, meaning that he's not tossed to and fro, as the Bible says, with every wind of doctrine. He's a focused man. He can maintain a discipline and a focus, and that's how you get results, because you can actually stick with something. And the third thing is that he's not persuaded in a direction other than his convictions.
Okay.
I'll say that again. He's not persuaded in a direction other than his convictions, meaning that the energy that he put into his vision that creates the trail of his of results in his life is a byproduct of his convictions. And people are always going to have an opinion of who you are and what you should be. But a real man lives from the inside out. That's what success is. Imposing your will on the world, living according to your convictions. And if the man lives according to his convictions, and that's how he's able to frame his world so that you can see the results in his life.
Okay. And do you have any studies that you've done with this book as far as interviewing certain women in certain professions, like a group study, or this is just your perspective?
It's purely my perspective.
Okay.
I've had a lot of experiences dealing with women over the years, and I've been able to notice certain patterns and certain behaviors that lead to certain results, both good and bad. So this is a 250-page compilation of strategies that I believe will undoubtedly land you the man that you want, and it will make you appealing. It will make you recognizable to the kind of man that you want.
Now, is that limited to age groups, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or maybe even 60s? Or what are you gearing into?
This book was, it was written to younger women, 20s, maybe early 30s. But in reality, I've seen older women who they always keep a man, in their 60s, 70s, and things like that. So the thing is that if a woman is easy to be around, and she's feminine, and she's actually considerate of the man across from her, and she actually can value, desire, and respect the man, and she keeps herself looking good. Men are visuals. You can't get around that. If you combine all of those things, then there's always going to be some sort of quality man circling you.
Okay.
It's really it's not about age. It's about the woman that you become and the woman that you are. And if you have certain qualities, then it's a no-brainer that men are going to want to be around you.
Okay. So would you say it's a misnomer, if you will, if you count women over the age of 40 out, even though we just spoke about that, that's something that a lot of people think automatically.
I disagree with that because you have some very attractive women over 40 who still are getting hounded by men. you know, really, it's how you keep yourself looking. I mean, the older you get, you have to be honest with yourself about how visual men actually are, and you know, you want to keep yourself looking as good as you possibly can. Men do not see your personality; they see your looks. So if you really focus and you know put an emphasis on keeping yourself looking as good as you possibly can, then you're going to get approached. And after you get approached, if you're once again easy to be around, feminine, non-combative, and can be an extension of a man's peace, then naturally he's going to want to be around you. And then once he's around you, he can see you over time. And if he likes what he sees over time, then that's how you end up in a relationship. So no, this is not relegated to women over 40. It's relegated to the women who make a decision that they're going to be the type of woman that can be appealing to the type of men that they want to be with.
Okay. Quick question. You said non-combative.
Yes, I said it.
Well, I'm 54. I think I've kept myself up pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm stuck in my ways, meaning I'm just used to a certain regimen now. Could that be a potential problem if I decide later on I may want to embark on another long term?
No, it's based on compatibility. You know, that's all it is. It's purely compatibility.
Okay.
And your regimen is your regimen. That man has a regimen as well. And if you two desire each other and you respect each other, and there's an anticipation and a reverence for one another, then no matter what your regimen is, you're going to find your way to each other. It's just about finding people you're compatible with who desire you the same way that you desire them.
Okay. And how does that work when you have a companion, as myself, but we already know that's where it's going to be? There isn't any future there, meaning long term.
Well, you enjoy
It's
it.
been discussed, and we're good with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. Compatibility, the essence of compatibility means that you two want the same things.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing wrong with that. There's no definition of success when it comes to two people. It's they have their own definition of that, and that is, do we want the same things or do we not? It's that simple, you know.
Okay. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of your title. What are the ingredients?
The ingredients of my title, how to be appealing to successful Black men for Black women. The meat and potatoes is that successful men do exist. Typically, the successful Black man is who the Black woman wants to be with, regardless of her economical background or her societal background. You know, most women, whether they live in the projects or whether they're a CEO, want a successful Black man. So what you want to do, if that's what you want, is to make yourself recognizable and appealing to him. And that's what the remaining 18 chapters after I introduce what is a successful Black man, the remaining 18 chapters are about things that you can do and understand about men, successful men, to make yourself appealing to them. Like one of the strategies I introduced early on in the book is to consider the source of information and where it's coming from. So you can have, as a younger woman, you can have older women telling you this and that and giving you advice and strategy and direction in terms of how to get the men you want. But when I say consider the source, you have to look at that person's life and ask yourself, do you want the results that that person has in their life? Because their advice is going to be a byproduct of their personal philosophy, and their personal philosophy explains every result and every reality that that person has in their life. So I just showed a woman how to think in layers, how to be intelligent, and how to understand that not all advice is good advice, but the real conversation is the unspoken conversation. Is if a person has the results that you desire, then naturally you should listen to them. And if the person doesn't have the results that you desire in conjunction with getting successful Black men, then you probably should take that with a grain of salt.
And is that a sum total of behavior? Because I've seen some horrible displays of behavior from women in all age groups, but shockingly, here as of late, in my age group and older, I mean, the language, the behavior on social media, it's embarrassing. But they're supposed to be representing excellence.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And at a certain point, when you're talking about successful Black men, those women are invisible. So it doesn't really matter how these women are showing. Like, if a man knows who he is, he's going to know what type of woman he's looking for. And that's a focused man. That's a man that has a vision. That's a successful man. He knows himself. He's accepted himself. So certain women that he sees or that he encounters, they're just not congruent with who he is. He already knows it. They're invisible. So those women can do and be whatever they want to do and be, but ultimately, if they have bad attitudes, if they're combative and they're aggressive and masculine and do distasteful things like you were talking about, then to a real man that has something going for himself, that woman is going to be virtually invisible to him.
We have a comment from Miss Tina Brown.
Sure.
Non-combative, knowing how to engage in conversations without abusive words or attitudes, knowing how to pick and choose your battles. Everything that's upsetting doesn't have to result in an argument. How do you feel about that comment, sir?
I feel that's a good comment. And
thank you, Ms. Tina.
Yes, thank you. That's a great comment right there.
Would you like to expound on that?
Yeah, of course. A lot of times when two people are compatible, like my definition of compatibility that I introduced in my book, I said compatibility is the absence of frequent conflict.
Oh, that sounds good. Can you repeat that?
Compatibility is the absence of frequent conflict. That's the definition that I created for my book.
Okay.
And if two people are compatible, they're really not going to have that much conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Now, two human beings coming together, they're different people from different backgrounds with different ways of doing things, routines, like you said. So there's going to be some adjustments which may result in conflict.
Mm-hmm.
But I say compatibility is the absence of frequent conflict. If you're always bumping heads, then you two the world looks too different for you both.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're compatible with someone and there's desire there as well, then you're less concerned with being right and winning an argument, as opposed to how can I keep this going for the betterment of us moving forward. That's when you truly desire someone. So you're looking for ways to make things work, as opposed to finding ways for things not to work. And that's what that disrespectful communication from that comment you were just talking about, that's where it enters in, when there's truly a lack of desire, because that's just natural. Desire, attraction, all of these things are involuntary. Right. So when desire and attraction and respect is present, then that's going to translate to healthy and progressive communication between those two people. Because if they're compatible, that means whatever transgression, whatever thing that they're have conflict about, it's really not that big of a deal. It's just going to take some effective communication to work through it so the two people can understand each other better. And like I say, when you truly desire someone and you respect someone, then that has all of the ingredients to have respectful conversation to keep things moving forward in a respectful and a progressive way.
Now, as it goes with respect, does that mean sometimes you have to put some of your pet peeves aside? Because one of the things that we do, well, we've been doing, and I've continued to do it, just call or text when we make it to our destination. Sometimes I'm tired, or I'm almost at my REM level of sleep. And in my heart, I know we made it to work okay. I mean, I don't want to take that for granted, but sometimes that bothers me a little bit. And I haven't said anything. Am I wrong in not expressing that? Because it hasn't hurt anything. It's just a pet peeve a little bit.
Okay,
Does that make me
I'm trying to
combative?
understand. It's like what exactly are you saying that you're having an issue with?
Like, schedules are so different, and we always let one another know, okay, we've made it to work or made it wherever we're going. I can't do that all the time, but I think it's expected because we've done it for so long. If I now say, you know what, we don't have to do that anymore, would I be starting up something, or should I just leave well enough alone, even though I could be asleep 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm here or I'm doing whatever. Like, okay.
That is something that can be communicated through. It's
Okay.
not something to really worry about an outcome. I think a man is more so worried about, is he being desired? Is he being appreciated? Is he being valued? Is he being respected? And as long as those things don't change, meaning that, when those things change, then you can feel an energy shift. Just because you can relax some things as far as habits that you two have been doing and say, hey, this will work better if I could just maybe get some sleep sometime and not have to worry about checking in. And, we're going to see each other. We're going to communicate. That has nothing to do with him being valued, desired, and respected.
Okay.
You see where I'm coming from? And
Yeah.
and what you want isn't going to change, so you might as well communicate it with it, because it's going to come out in some way, shape, or form. You would rather jump in front of it than let it fester and end up frustrated and being disrespectful in your communication.
And that's what I'm trying to not get into, because as the summer comes, I see schedules changing even more. And it's because there's danger in everything, but that's an important call. But I don't get a lot of sleep now. And maybe it's just me. It's a pet peeve, that's all. But I've accepted it and haven't said anything for so long. I don't want to rock the boat, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or give any idea that, okay, something is wrong. Because nothing has been said before. So, just a question.
I understand, but everyone deserves to communicate whatever's on their heart and their mind. And it's not just worried about rocking the boat. It's the realization that what you want is not going to change. So if you're silent about it, you're just going to grow more frustrated.
Right.
And that's why I say you would rather jump in front of it than to have to respond to an action that was based on your frustration.
Okay.
If you let it fester, it's going to come out. You wanted to jump in front of it and come out in a respectful way, as opposed to a disrespectful and frustrated way. One is going to happen. It's inevitable. One is going to happen. So I think that the healthier way is to jump in front of it.
Okay. What else should we expect in chapter 1?
You said, what else should you expect?
In chapter 1.
Chapter
1 of your book.
Yeah, I understand. Chapter
Mhm.
one of my book just it just breaks down what a successful black man is,
Okay.
and it's everything that I explained. You know, he has a vision beyond where he is. He's mastered
Hmm.
himself mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. His wisdom will elevate your quality of life over time, and you'll spend time around him, and no matter how together or accomplished that you are, you're going to see yourself improve by virtue of his presence. His wisdom elevates your quality of life over time because he's mastered himself and he has a focus, he has a vision, and he has results in his life. So that's the crux of
Hmm.
what is a successful black man. And I really broke it down. And those men do exist. And quite frankly, the only way that you can have a progressive life with a man is to get with a mentally healthy man who has mastered himself. Um, would you like me to tell the young lady where she can get my book?
Yes, it's in the definition in this particular broadcast, but sure. And I'll make
Okay.
sure that I put it in again.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Brown. You can purchase my book at www.matthew, Mathew, the letter C, and Horne, MatthewCHorne.com. You'll have it in 2 or 3 days.
Okay. Question. Now you mentioned your ingredients or definition of a successful man, black man. What if a life changing, unforeseen event occurs and one of those ingredients is temporarily removed? Does that change the success
It
or
doesn't,
does it remain?
especially if it's something that life did to him.
Yes.
You know,
Job loss, um, perhaps a life altering injury.
well, this is the thing. You don't have faith in the success of the man. You have faith in the man that created the success. I'll say that again. You don't have faith in the success of the man. You have faith in the man that created the success. Whatever the essence is of that man, that's what you have faith in. If a man has a progressive and nature that he's not just happening to life, that he's not just letting life happen to him, he's happening to life. He's showing up and he's imposing his convictions and his will on life every day. Those men don't stay down. So the best thing that a woman can do is not look at the tribulation that the man is facing, but how he's facing the tribulation.
Right.
And that's what you can
Absolutely.
have faith in. It is that he's facing it. He's not just accepting defeat, but he still, in spite of his circumstance, has a mindset and a drive to impose his will on the situation and create the change that
Hmm.
he desires. So you
Yes.
don't you don't have faith in the situation, but pay close attention to the man's reaction to the situation. And that's when I can say you can have faith in the man that created the success and not the success that the man has created.
Okay. I'd like to present to you a brief case study for you to dissect, if you don't mind.
Okay.
A friend of mine, well, acquaintance now, my age group, very attractive, 2 master's degrees, own home, own car. She's met many successful black men, but has run them all off. What do you say about that? Now, I will say she is one who likes to keep up with the Joneses. When I went to visit, when she moved, I was going up the steps, and out of my peripheral, I kid you not, I had to look again. And I said, "Is that a piano?" She's like, "Yes." I'm like, "When did you begin piano lessons?" "I haven't. It's just for show." And she had a little music book turned to Etta James at last. So she, again, being successful, the salary, everything, but everything is for show. Closets filled with shoes, everything designer, but I mean, she's met entertainment lawyers, she's a senior paralegal, people in sports, you name it, but they all run. Every last one of them. Every last one. What would you say about that? I mean, on the outside, you would look and say, okay, she could be appealing, but what could run all of the successful men off?
Well, a situation like that, you mean she's dated these guys or she just encounters them?
I'm sorry?
You mean she's actually dated these guys or she just met these guys by virtue of her profession and things like that?
No, she's dated them.
Well, at a certain point, you have to start taking a look at yourself because you're the common denominator in all of these successful men running away. If a man finds an attractive woman and, like I say, she values, desires, and respects him, typically he's sticking around. And if she doesn't change, then he's going to stick around long enough to actually trust her, that he can have a good quality of life with her. And there's something that all of these men are seeing that is a detriment to their quality of life. That is no other way to put it.
Well, I believe clinginess, showing up unannounced, that's something I would never do. But
you can't do that.
I mean, she was like that back in college, and I didn't know it branched over into adulthood. But yeah, I mean, we'll give you anything. I mean, ride or die, but it may be those clingy type ways. That's the only thing.
Yeah,
I can think.
I don't have a ton of information, on this particular woman, but it's in general, it's something like you said that's evident that's running these men away. And at a certain point, especially when you've been trying for all those years, it doesn't hurt to get professional help. And I'm talking beyond a dating coach. I'm talking, mental health evaluation therapist.
Yes.
All of that kind of stuff. And they're going to help to bring to light things that maybe she can't see. And at that point, she has a decision to make. Is changing mean more to her than the dissatisfaction of her current experience, her consistent experience that she had with men. And when something is brought to your attention, now you have a choice to make as to whether you're going to make these changes to experience a different outcome, meaning some of these men stick around, or do you have a level of comfort and satisfaction with how you are? And that is a conversation that everyone has to have within themselves after they take the step to find out what's going on. So this is a layered approach to creating a solution. But it begins with the desire to change the solution, meaning you'll take the steps if the desire is there.
Right. I think the mentality is, I've grinded, I've worked hard to achieve where I am. I will say, she is the type who, if you don't have a certain figure, she's not going to talk to you. So, you could call it bougie or having standards, but again, there's something, as you said, that has run off all of these people, and a few of them have married probably within a year after them breaking. So, yeah.
Yeah, when men know, they know, and that's both good and bad. It doesn't take a seasoned man, an older man. It doesn't take him very long to assess the woman that's in front of him.
And they are. She prefers an older gentleman.
Yeah, but older men typically have created a good quality of life for themselves, and they're settled, and they're not going to have anything in this space that's going to disrupt what they had to fight to create. And
Mm-hmm.
every woman has to make that choice and that decision to become, take the message to find out about themselves and to decide if what they're told about themselves, if it's worth them actually confronting it and making the change. And that's
Right.
a decision that every woman has to make. But as far as um, having these lofty and high standards, that hurts a lot of women too, because it's not about the kind of man that you want. It's about the kind of men that are checking for you. And
And what exactly does that mean?
a lot of women are in conflict with themselves in terms of the kind of men that are in their actual dating pool versus
Mm-hmm.
their desired and fictitious dating pool. A lot of women do have certain guys circling around them, showing them interest, but in their own way, they think they're above them. They think they're better than these men, or these men don't shape up. But in
Right.
all actuality, the kind of man you actually want does exist, but you're single, meaning that man, that type of man is not checking for you. So it's one thing to love yourself enough to say, I'm going to appreciate the men who appreciate me. That man that you overlook now becomes attractive
Mm-hmm.
because you love yourself, and you actually have enough logic and reason to say, hey, I might be boxing outside of my weight class in terms of my expectation. Yeah, these men exist, but they're not breathing in my direction. They're at arm's length, but I can't even reach out and touch them.
Right.
It's about an acceptance based on you have to love yourself enough to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to check for the men that are checking for me, as long as they're, progressive and they're respectful and they have sovereignty over their life, meaning they're not going to be trying to live off of me and mooch and things like that. You have to have some real conversations with yourself. And that's what I believe. I believe that self-love and logic will amplify the presence of the right men for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You just said something that, well, I'm from the DMV. You're from the DMV. I see as a culture a really negative culture, and that is women, any age group, that will allow a lot of men to actually say mooch or leech off of them. How do you combat that, or what would you say to that? And how did that even come in existence?
Well, it came in existence because there's different types of men. There are a lot of PG County is the richest collection of black people in the United States. Okay,
Yes.
so if there's a moocher, then there's 10 successful men for every moocher. If you understand what I'm saying, like
Yes.
all these government jobs, all these six-figure earners, both black men and black women. There
Mm-hmm.
is a decadent and deep pool of successful black men. Now, if a woman finds herself with the moocher, then that means that is her level. That's
Mm.
where she's comfortable. Because especially if she's an attractive woman, there are successful, self-sufficient men who aren't moochers checking for her. But she's more comfortable with the guy that is depending on her because she hasn't become the whole woman who's compatible with the whole man.
Okay.
So who you can tolerate, who you spend your time with, who you can spend an elongated amount of time with is a reflection of who you are.
Yes.
So the person that you choose is a direct reflection of how you see yourself. Now,
Absolutely.
if every man was a moocher, then if there were a majority of men who were moochers, then I would say, you know what, you're on something. But I know plenty of self-sufficient, successful black men who are just waiting for a woman that they're compatible with. And some of those conversations actually birthed my book. It birthed the idea to write my book. A bunch of 30-something-year-old men, like myself, who were very successful and independent, having the same dating experiences. And when we compared notes, we were going through the same things. So that's why I actually created it. But I'm saying that to say there's plenty of successful Black men out here. And if you find yourself with men who are questionable in their character and don't have sovereignty over their life, and they're not self-reliant, then you have to take a hard look at yourself and say, why am I a safe space and a spiritual match for these men?
Right. So, law enforcement, military, entrepreneurs, as you said, in PG, in Montgomery, plentiful, but there's still, at least from my perspective, a disconnect somewhere. You find some that are going through maybe, I don't want to say a 7-year itch in their relationship, but maybe where they've come to a point where, from I've heard, we're not growing. What do you say to that? Is it just a growing pain hurdle, or are these real?
It's a reflection of how you see yourself. You can't progress in life until you take accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And what you tolerate is a reflection of how you see yourself. If you establish a boundary that, hey, I'm in this for the long haul, I'm not going to do anything to complicate this relationship. I'm not going to do anything to put this relationship in jeopardy or to compromise it. If you say those things and you move in accordance with those things and you outline those things, right? Mm-hmm. And that person, regardless of the amount of time that elapses, goes against those things, then you have a decision to make. And typically people don't just do stuff. There's always warning signs. There's always something that is indicative of a behavior that a person is about to exhibit. And you have to pay attention to those things. But at the end of the day, it's not what they do, it's how much do you value yourself that's going to determine how you react to what they do. And if you stick around for that foolishness, that unhealthy type of things, and call it a growing pain and this and that, all you're doing is inviting that person to do it more, because you're showing them that you don't respect yourself.
Absolutely.
A person,
I agree with that.
Yeah, a person who respects themselves, they're not going to remain in a situation that they are not receiving what they are giving. And certain things, when they're done, when a boundary is crossed, there's no coming back from it. And that person made their bed. If you express that, hey, these are my non-negotiables,
mm-hmm.
and that person still finds it within themselves to cross those boundaries, then their desire to do whatever they were doing is greater than their desire to maintain a healthy and respectful environment with you.
Absolutely.
And so at that point, you're not compatible at that
point. Right. All right, I have a question. Mm-hmm. Well, several. The link is there, ladies and gentlemen. But I'll go ahead and ask for AH. There are only 3 questions. 1, does your partner know what you need, want? 2, are they able to provide or help you get what they need or want? 3, are they willing to provide or help get you get it? And follows up with an answer of no to 1 question requires a deep, honest discussion. An answer of no to 2 or all 3 means it's time to make an exit plan and part ways gracefully as possible. Dr. Paul Hawk, hopefully I presented his name correctly. How do you feel about that, sir?
I feel like 2 people should come to the relationship wholly. not whole, not whole,
Yes. Oh,
but
yeah.
but whole. That means that you have a good grasp on your life. You've made progress in the direction that you want to go with your life, and there's a level of comfort, even if you haven't gotten to where you want to be, right?
Hmm.
So those two people, they don't necessarily need anything from anybody. They just have decided that my quality of life is better when I'm with you. You don't want to depend on someone else to fulfill your needs. To me, that's that's not a whole person, and that's a dangerous approach to life, because you the only person that you can truly rely on is yourself. You don't want to be in a vulnerable position where you need something from someone. I believe that everything that you need, you should somehow, some way find a way to create those results and create that life for yourself. So
From
that
what,
when you,
yes.
yeah, when you find someone, they just compliment you. You two just complement one another. You're compatible, you're congruent, but you all aren't interdependent. And that's where it gets unhealthy. You're depending on an unstable, human being, because none of us are completely on 100% of the time. You
Right.
know, um, you're depending on a fallible human being to fill a whole space in your life, and it doesn't work. You want to find out on your own, and so that way, when you come together, you don't necessarily need anything from that person. You just concluded that you have a desire for that person. I think a relationship built on desire is healthy. A relationship built on need is I feel like that's probably on borrowed time.
Okay. Selena wants to know, what are the ways you can show males you're approachable without being aggressive in your actions? Excellent question. Thank you, Selena. Anything for Selena's?
Yes, Selena, great question. This is what you do. Don't leave it to chance. If there's a man that you're attracted to, roll up on him.
Hold up.
roll up on him.
Hold up. Bird woman.
Yeah.
What is roll up in a soft and gentle, feminine way? From your perspective.
Well, it's 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 nothing wrong with going up to a man and saying, "Hey, I noticed you, and I think you're very attractive." There's nothing wrong with that, and that actually goes a long way with men. For a woman who knows what she wants and who's not afraid to let the moment pass her by to get what she wants. You a lot of women have met their husbands that way, that they simply were the one to approach. And it doesn't matter who approaches, because approaching someone is just giving someone the opportunity to reciprocate the desire that you express. I'll say that again. Approaching someone is just giving someone an opportunity to reciprocate the desire that you've just expressed. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you vulnerable. It's just, hey, I'm interested, but I love and respect myself. So I'm going to see if you're as interested in me as I am to you. And it's that simple.
Okay.
When you look at the marriage rates, when I wrote my book, the marriage rates were 72% amongst Black women that were projected to ever get married. Not currently, but ever get married. That's an epidemic. That's 1 in 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that of those 1 in 4 women, there was a 50% chance that those women were going to make it past 5 years in marriage. So as a
Wow.
Black woman, you have a 12% chance of getting married and it lasts more than 5 years. You have a basically 1 in 4 chance, 28% chance of actually getting married. You're going to have to start being proactive. When you look at the reality of things, if you really value a good man, value finding a husband, value getting in a healthy relationship, and you're going to have to take a proactive approach to making things happen at times. That could be you approach the man or the man approaches you, but you just want to make sure that regardless of how it happens, you want to give that man an experience that's going to inspire him to want to take a very long walk with you in life.
Absolutely. So what, in your perspective, especially in our area, when you hear the word being thirsty, what does that mean to you?
Thirsty is like you have to hear the unspoken conversation. Okay, let me see what she said. Yeah, you're going to have to hear the unspoken conversation, right? So, as a woman, okay, if a very attractive man comes up to you and says, "Hey, I'm interested and I'd like to get to know you better," it's nothing thirsty about that because you're very attracted to him. If a man that's not so attracted to you comes up to you and says the same thing, now he's thirsty because you're upset with him because you think in his mind, why do you think you have access to me? You know, it's almost like you're offended that this guy actually approached you. Anytime a woman uses shaming language, thirst is shaming language. That is a reflection of a man in her space that she's not attracted to. Because that same man that she's attracted to can do the same exact thing, and she's going to welcome the advance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so let's go back a little bit to where you were speaking about being soft and feminine. What if you are that, but at times you just want to be in your own comfort zone? And I understand men are visual, but is that a problem?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not, because beauty shines regardless. There's women who go out who have a mindset that they don't want to be approached. They have a hat on, they're in some sweats, they're up in the grocery store, and they still get rolled up on. You know, so true femininity is an energy, it's not an appearance. Femininity is an essence. And masculinity, masculinity has an eye for femininity because they're the polarization of it. They're congruent. That's real compatibility. The yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine.
Yes.
So a woman cannot hide her femininity. And she also can't hide her masculinity. She can be dressed up to the nines, face beat, Louis Vuittons on, hair done, all the bells and whistles. But she has an egregious and nasty energy about herself.
Yes.
The man is not going to he's not going to gravitate towards that because you can't hide it. You see what I'm saying? But the woman can be, like I said, sweatsuit, hat on, just came from the gym, whatever the case, but she's exuding that feminine essence. And true beauty is revealed in its most vulnerable state. So when she's not done up, when she's not quote unquote looking her best, and she's still attractive to you, you got one right there. So all of these things we're talking about are essence. The exterior has nothing to do with your essence. And a true masculine man who knows himself, who's mentally healthy, he's more focused on the essence of a woman than her physical appearance.
Okay. Miss Tina says, I really wish we would stop putting labels on people, honestly. How do you feel about that comment?
Labels in what regard? Yeah, because I'm not really clear.
Okay. Miss Tina, the link is there, or you could respond to Mr. Horne in the chat. And again, she says, I really wish we would stop putting labels on people. So I'll wait and see if she responds.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of people, as a matter of fact, and this stems from a comment, I'm not sure if you remember or not, that Monique, the comedian, made some time ago about going out with your bonnet on. That we should never do that, even if we're just going down to the market. I'm gonna tell you in a minute. I'm gonna put my Dallas Cowboys hat on. If I'm just going down to pump some gas at night or pick up a couple of things. That's just me. Others may feel the need to get dutied up. I don't. At least not at this point in my life. Even when I was younger, I don't think I did. Mm-mm.
I mean, you want to be presentable. I mean,
Of course.
it just depends on like, well, whatever you want to, whatever you want to experience. And I see the comment. Whatever you want to experience, you want to be a match for it. You know, when I want to meet women, I make sure I'm groomed to the nine. That's why I wrote How to Get Beautiful Women and Everything Else You Want from Life. I was showing men how to optimize themselves. Meaning, if you really want beautiful women, there's no days off. You know, beautiful women respond to certain things, and successful men, they're going to be drawn to certain things, and you have to accept it. You know, either accept it and get the experiences that you want to get, or you don't, and you continue to get the unfavorable outcomes. And just like it's in everything has a quote unquote uniform. You know, a job has a way that they want you to look.
Yes.
You go into church, you know, you go different places, and there's an expectation, there's a norm, and you have to ask yourself what you really want. And if you're in a season of life where you truly desire a man, you don't know where you're going to meet that man. And same goes for men. You don't know where you're going to meet that woman, so you just make sure that you're always presentable and give yourself a fighting chance. That's one of the aspects of giving yourself a chance, is paying attention to your appearance and understanding the importance of it.
Now, for you, does a woman's scent spark anything? I love a man that smells good. That's just me.
Yeah.
Also like eyes and arms. I mean, that's not to say the rest of you doesn't count, but those are my triggers, if you will. A man that smells good.
Yeah, well, with a woman, yeah, scent is always good. But you know, you can have a nice perfume, and you know, you can also have a pheromone. That's more of an unconscious thing as well. But yeah, you always want to make sure you're smelling good. That's for both men and women. And find something that you like in terms of a scent. You know,
Egyptian musk.
Yeah,
Worn it
find
for
what you
years.
like. I've been wearing the same cologne for 10 years now. Because
I had
like
a guy follow me one time. He was like, "You just smell so good." I'm like, "Oh, it's Mr. Creepers," but he was nice about it. But I mean, that was kind of weird.
Yeah. And I saw the comment about the labels like thirsty and all this other stuff. Yeah, it doesn't really matter how people label you. It just matters how you see yourself. People are always going to have an opinion. It's just an opinion is just a collection of thoughts in somebody else's mind, and only you know your truth. And when you learn to love yourself and embrace yourself and accept yourself, you're not worried about what other people are saying. That's the furthest thing from your mind. You're just moving in accordance with who you are.
Absolutely.
And you don't let other people's words affect you. So it's okay, you know, to put yourself out there, be vulnerable, and take whatever comes with it. As long as you know that you are living, as long as you know you are living your truth, then anything outside of that is irrelevant. Any label, any definition, that's just what people do. And a lot of times the people who put labels on people are the people who are afraid to do the very things that you're doing. So you just want to be true to yourself, and through the course of being true to yourself, the effectiveness and the sting of a label is absent.
Absolutely. So the R word, rejection. Pros, and cons.
It's all pros. There are no cons to rejection, because that rejection is an immediate sign that you're not compatible with someone.
Okay.
I don't see a con with it. I see all pros.
All
I mean,
pros.
if you love yourself, if a woman rejects me, I mean, I never have another thought about her ever.
But you're in a totally different mindset. Some rejection can damage some men for a long period of time. I can say I've met so many that they've been married maybe once or twice, and they're still harboring that hurt or rejection, where you could be, or a woman could be the next one, but they're to the point where they don't even want to go any further. What's your thought on that? When I say I've met several, they're like, I'm done.
Well, the thing is that that's what I said in my video. Accountability creates a softer woman. When you take accountability for your role and things not working, then you don't walk away with the disdain and hate for that person. You walk away better because you're more evolved. You learn and you grew. That type of person is open to new opportunities and new experiences. If a person is walking around bitter, that's a person who hasn't taken accountability for whatever their role is. Because when a person takes accountability, by consequence of that, they grow. And when a person grows, they trust themselves more, meaning that they don't have a wall up.
Right.
Because they know that they're taking a better version of themselves through life, because they learned from their previous experience by taking personal accountability for whatever their contribution was to it not working. So a person who's bitter is a person who is not taking accountability. And a person who doesn't take accountability is a person who can't grow. And if you are a growth-minded person, and that's your essence, you're going to be bumping your head with this person, so it's best if a person is in that space, just leave them alone. Like, honestly, I understand these people exist.
Yes.
But if you truly have worked on yourself, we've all been betrayed. We've all been disappointed by someone we love. That's part of the human experience. So we can't look at it like it's just us and we're so devastated. Now, you're going to have to heal and become whole in your own time, and that's going to require effort. But you don't know when that's going to happen. That looks different for every person. But you want to have a mindset that if you're a healthy and whole person and you've been betrayed and you've been disappointed, but you chose to do the work, then you're naturally not going to pair yourself with someone who hasn't done the work.
Absolutely.
And you can tell the work that a person has done by how they're showing up to you. If they're still holding on to things and they're still bitter and they haven't quite moved on, and a lot of their essence and their spirit is still in a dead situation, then if you're a whole and progressive person, you're gonna cut ties with that person relatively quickly. And it's not like they're a bad person.
Right.
It's just that you've made choices and decisions that they haven't made. That's not your job to help them become whole and to heal. And
yes,
that's not your job. That is something that a person must desire to do within themselves. If they truly desire it, then they're going to show up in a way that's a reflection of the choices that they made.
Okay. A rejection is not a personal no. You are walking into someone's story. I like the way you put that. So don't take a rejection as something wrong with you. You don't know everything going on. How would you respond to that, sir?
I respond and say that's great. A rejection has nothing to do with you unless you allow it to. And
Shaming language is a real issue, both sides. I want to
yeah,
stay on that for a moment. What do you, or how do you feel about women, since this is geared, or your book that we're speaking about is geared for the Black woman who puts men down, calls them BANs?
you said how do I feel about women who shame men? Is what you're saying?
Yes, put them down or put labels, even though Miss Tina said earlier that she wishes that we could stop doing that. But
Uh,
unfortunately, there are people that continue to do that, kicking men when they're down. They're not down all the time. I mean, it goes each way.
yeah. Shaming language. When a person uses shaming language, I understand that that person is a manipulator. Okay. People use shaming language because you aren't doing what they want you to do. That's when shaming language comes into play. Like a woman could, you could say, "Hey, let's go out and get a drink," and a
Mm-hmm.
woman could say, "Oh, you broke MF," you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Take me to dinner. Like she's trying to get to your ego through shaming to get the outcome that she wants, which is for you to spend more money on her than you initially were going to spend. So you always have to look at the motivation behind the words. So shaming language is nothing more than it's just veiled manipulation. That's all it is. It's blatant and and veiled at the same time. It's blatant manipulation. It's a last ditch effort to get you to do something that they want you to do that you naturally don't want to do. And the only people that succumb and fall prey to shaming language are people who are not at one with themselves. So if a woman uses any sort of shaming language with me, I bid her goodbye very quickly.
And how do you normally do that? Do you just say, "Take care, ma'am," or do you
That's
say
it.
anything at all?
Yeah, I'm not here to give her a piece of my mind or anything like that. I just acknowledge that, first of all, that's very low energy. And I wrote, in one of my books, I said conflict requires two willing participants. If you are not willing, then there is no conflict. So if a woman attempts to introduce shaming language to me, I just remove myself from the situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Because I know I'm dealing with a manipulative person.
Yeah,
And,
and that's
and,
exactly what
and
Miss Tina just said. It's all manipulation at its finest. Now,
yeah,
let me ask you something. As a successful Black man, can you sense bitterness?
you can. People can't hide who they are. Um,
Put that in the chat. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, people can't hide who they are. Whatever they are about, whoever they are is going to come out, and it's not going to take long. So the the bitterness is reflected in the conversation. It's reflected in their energy and their essence. And so if a person is you're a new person in that person's life, right? And they still feel the need to frequently bring up a particular person or experience from the past, it shows me that they're bitter and they're not really healed. So I don't label them as a bad person. I just label them as someone who has some work to do.
And I put that. Can men detect bitterness? Now, is that for a successful man a deal breaker? Was that something, if you're attracted, that you're willing to work on? Or do you think it's too much work?
That just depends from woman to woman, to be honest. Like some women have great attributes, and you see something in them that makes you want to get to know them more, right? So you're kind of weighing certain things that you see. You can introduce certain things to a person and say, hey, you know what? Um, this isn't quite congruent with how I do things, and honestly, this is going to be an issue. So I'm not asking you to change for me. I'm asking you to take a look at this and consider what I'm saying, and ask yourself if what I'm saying can improve your quality of life.
Mm.
Because change, effective change, lasting change happens because a person sees value in what you introduce to them. So if a person changes for you, then it's temporary, because true change is something that's done for yourself. So if I suggest something to a woman because I see some value in her and she hasn't crossed the line of disrespect and things like that, no one's perfect. So you're going to have to work with people to a degree. Okay. As long as whatever you're seeing is just not one of, your boundary breakers or fluorescent red flags, you're going to have to work with people. So I can introduce something to a woman, and then I can just sit back and watch her approach to what I said. Is she willing to work on it? And if a person effectively works on something for the right reasons, you're going to start to see change. And that change is going to actually last. If a person works on something for the wrong reasons, to appease you, to stay in your space, it's just temporary, and they'll go right back to who they are, because they didn't want to change from a healthy place of internally.
Okay, and that's another point that you made. Appeasing people. Is that, again, something that a successful man can easily detect, or does it take a little bit of time before it to actually come out, as you say?
Time and vulnerability is going to reveal the truth of any person. So whoever they are, if you spend enough time around them, it's going to come out. And the beauty of it is that life puts all of our backs against the wall. So whenever your back is against the wall, that's a vulnerable position. And whoever you are pretending to be, the truth of who you are is going to come out when your back is against the wall. So that's what I would say. Pay attention to people when life puts them in vulnerable situations. It's going to happen. That's why I say time and vulnerability are going to reveal the truth of any person. And if you spend enough time with someone, by virtue of life, they're going to be in a vulnerable position. And then you see who they truly are, see how they respond, what comes out of that person when their back is against the wall.
Or if they're met with certain situations. I do this often. Well, I used to. We would watch television shows or movies or see certain life events, and I would look at the behavior, and I would use that as a measuring stick, if you would. Do you think that was wrong of me? Because I'm feeling like if you're laughing at something that I find is hurtful, would you bring that to a relationship? Am I judging, or am I determining a person's character?
You deserve to take a look at something like that. But I would rather see this person in real life, like a movie, a reaction, or something like that. It's something to kind of pay attention to. But I would rather just see who that person is in real life. A real life situation is going to carry more weight, and that's where you have to be patient.
Okay, so explain your perspective of patience, and is there a time frame?
No, there's no time frame. You're just going to have to. what brings this all into focus is knowing and accepting yourself. Like if you're a leader of yourself, okay?
Yes.
If you know what you want from life and you've gone after it, and you have a life that you like, all right, at that point you can easily identify things that are compatible and congruent with who you are in the world that you created. Okay. It's not about waiting and being patient, for this person to quote unquote mess things up or show you who they are and all that kind of stuff. Because if you're looking for something hard enough, you're going to find it. You can kind of fool yourself.
No, is that wrong?
What's that?
Is that wrong though?
I mean, you can keep your eyes open, but you don't want to go looking for stuff.
Okay.
If you're looking for stuff, then that's not healthy. That's showing you that you don't really trust yourself. If you trust yourself, you just observe.
Okay.
If you're healthy and you're whole and you're healed, you just observe.
Okay, I think that's key.
And you pay attention to what you see. If you have an element of toxicity with you, then you're guarded because you're not healed. You haven't learned from your situation. If you've learned, then you can observe certain things and make sound and solid decisions. But if you're still guarded, that means that you haven't healed. That means you haven't taken personal responsibility for whatever your contribution was to your unfavorable relationships and experience in your past.
Okay.
Healthy, like I said, healthy people just observe. That's all you have to do. And because you trust yourself, you've evolved, you know yourself, you know what you're compatible with. You just observe.
Okay.
That's all it is.
You mentioned toxicity. What are the 3 most characteristics you would say would be considered as toxic or an element of toxicity when it comes to the woman? That she may not even be aware of, because you just taught me something about observing.
Yeah. Number 1 is narcissism. Okay, when it comes to women. Okay, and let me explain how this begins. As soon as a lot of women meet a man, right?
Yes.
They say, "Oh, you have to do X, Y, and Z to get in my presence. You have to buy me this. You have to give me this. You have to take me here," right? Not taking into account that this is a human being that you're talking to, not a utility and not a wallet. It's a human being that you're talking to. Okay? So if a man values himself, then he's not going to tolerate a woman that says, "You must give me an offering in order for me to enter your space." That's point blank saying, "I'm better than you." To require an offering from a man just to get in your space. You have to be narcissistic to tell another human being, "I'm so much better than you that I'm offering nothing to you," and you immediately have to deliver some sort of offering if you want this interaction to go any further. That's narcissism right there.
Awesome breakdown. Next characteristic.
Let's see, what else is toxic out here? I would say deception.
Please elaborate on that, sir, if you don't mind.
Deception is, that's one thing that really stands out to me when a woman just lies to me for no reason. It shows me that she's comfortable operating in deception. And when you have a person who's comfortable operating in deception, that means that if you're not a person who operates in that space, then you're not going to be able to trust this person. Deception. And I experience it a lot. I recently met a woman who I was, interested in, and I was in a professional space operating in one of my businesses with one of my clients.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up talking to this woman maybe a day or two later, and she told me that she lied about her name. And she was just like, well, you know how it is out here this day and age and all this other stuff. And I was just like, man, it wasn't even that serious. Like, I met her, I was with one of my authors. Like, we're progressive Black men. Like, we were dressed well and doing something progressive, and you felt the need to like, wow, like, you're doing too much. And I was like, and I introduced her to them and everything. And that lie just rolled right off her tongue. It just rolled right off her. And I was just like, if she's that comfortable, just lying, that, like, I was just like, I'm good on this. And I just never said another word to her. I was like, that was stupid.
So you just made a good point. Give me one quick moment. When you see that behavior on women, and again, being a woman, I believe you have to be careful. But that, to me, was a little bit too much. Could you ever find yourself saying, well, I can understand that, or was that to you just, because as you said, if you can easily deceive that way, what else could you do? Because we could say the same thing about some men. If you hear them slip with the B word, and many do, not all, but many do, could you slip with me or another woman? And should we just look at it as a slip? Or are you showing us or giving us a foreshadowing as to who you really are? Or are we ahead?
You definitely just want to pay attention to what you see. Like I said, once again, observe. And this is the thing. If you're healthy and you're whole, not perfect, but you've done some work on yourself and you've made it to a healthy place. Thank you, AH. You have it in 2 or 3 days, sir. If you're healthy and you're whole, then toxicity is going to be amplified. And that's the thing. Like, when a person can tolerate and entertain toxicity, that means they're toxic as well.
Oh, please repeat that.
If a person can entertain and tolerate toxicity, that means that they are toxic as well. I want a memorable focal point of this discussion to be, it's never about the other person, it's all about you. And that's why the video that you watched, it was called Accountability Creates a Softer Woman. Everything that you're worried about begins and ends with you. You have to be the type of person who is the opposite of the things that you don't like. That's the only way that you can see. So if I have an unfavorable experience with a woman, not just meeting someone and they do something toxic and crazy and I let them go. I mean, I get into a long-term dating situation or a relationship, and this person has toxic characteristics and a spirit and essence that eventually put me in a compromising situation, right? I'm not blaming that person. I'm saying, what is it in me that was a safe space for this person to reside in for so long? So your situation is not going to change until you change. That's dating, relationships, business, life. Whatever, however you want to slice it. You have to become the most evolved version of yourself, meaning that you have to learn from every situation that you're in. You have to take away from every situation, and you can't have it take away from you. And once you do that, you can trust yourself. You're elevated. You're illuminated. Okay?
Yes.
When you're illuminated, that means you're a light bearer. Light surrounds you. Light illuminates. Light exposes.
And so people gravitate towards you.
Exactly. But
strangers.
But since you are the light, then you can easily identify everything that's attempting to enter your presence.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to elevate, and by virtue of elevating and learning from your experiences and growing, you then become illuminated. You become more enlightened, which means that you don't have to be on guard all the time, which means that you trust yourself, because everything that's entering your space, since you're enlightened, you're not bitter, you're better, because you can identify things faster than what you could before.
Now, I'm a spiritual person, and my discernment is strong. And I know you mentioned earlier about observing. If your spirit tells you off the rip, could it be by chance you're reading a little bit too much into it? Or should you always trust your discernment or your gut feeling?
You will pay a penalty every time you don't listen to that voice. And I call it instincts. We can label it many different things, right?
Yes.
But one thing that I believe, and I put in my literature and my books, I say your instincts give you the power to see around corners. And you don't realize what you were seeing until you virtually get around that corner. But when you get around that corner, you'll realize you've been seeing it the entire time. So sometimes, see, instincts are the spiritual whisper to the spirit in us. Instincts are God to God communication. The God in you and the God that is communicating with himself in you. You don't understand the full scope of it. You just know it doesn't feel right.
But
if it doesn't feel right, you get out of there, because instincts give you the power to see around corners. Something can see something around the corner that you can't see.
Absolutely.
Okay.
What about us big-hearted people that want to give a person a chance because we see what we deem or perceive as potential? No? Or
no, you have to ask yourself why you don't love yourself. And I'm gonna be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you have to ask yourself, is why you don't love yourself. Because if you truly loved yourself, you understand the penalty of going past go. You've lived enough life to go past go and experience the corresponding explosion that happens every time. So you have to ask yourself, why don't I love myself enough to only put myself in situations that are right? Why am I trying to create something that's not there? Like, your spirit is already showing you. And see, the thing is that you would rather go with it when your spirit shows you, rather than when you naturally have to experience it.
absolutely.
Because by the time you naturally have to experience it, that means you're going to suffer some sort of loss.
Mm-hmm. And some losses are hard to bounce back from.
Exactly. So you want to be proactive. I mean, one thing my college coach told me when I played basketball was, he says the great players anticipate and the good players react. And I played Division I basketball. That means 1% of all high school varsity players got a full Division I basketball scholarship. So everybody was the star on their high school team when you start talking Division I basketball. This is the top, the creme de la creme, right? So if you don't anticipate dealing with these star players around you. The speed of the game, the intelligence, the athleticism, the skill, everything's elevated. By the time you have to react, it's too late. And the same thing with life. When your instincts are showing you how to anticipate, even if you can't fully understand the scope of how it's going to unfold, if it disrupts your spirit, get out of there.
Right.
Because by the time you have to react, meaning you naturally experience something, it's going to be too late.
Right.
You will suffer an inconvenience, a setback, a loss that you could have avoided.
Yes. And it's better early than later.
Yeah, that's like the woman lying to me. And I'm like, you know what, that wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah, she's tall, she's gorgeous, she's my type. Let me see what else she has going for her. Nah, that was enough. I was like,
wow.
You ain't even have to do, like, it wasn't that serious, you know. And I'm just like, nah, that ain't feel right. Yeah, I mean, physically, she was everything that I liked. Everything that I liked. But spiritually, nah. And you have to ask yourself, what do you want to be? If you keep trying to give people the benefit of the doubt, then you have to really ask yourself the question of, I'm being governed by my natural self and my flesh, as opposed to being governed by my spirit. And carnally minded people get carnally minded outcomes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So being a physical being, men, you spoke on bitterness. You spoke on deception, manipulation. You mentioned that you all can sense that. What about the ones who can't? Are they in a place where they're not healed? Or don't love themselves?
You mean the people who can't sense the toxicity?
Yes, sir.
It doesn't hurt to get the help that you need. Okay. Some people, everyone comes to awareness and breakthroughs in different ways. Like, some people can just learn from their experiences. Other people can continue to have the same experience over and over again and just not quite understand why it's happening, but have a desire for things to change. And that's when you humble yourself and you go get the help that you need.
And for those who don't, or feel like, I got it, what would you say about that? Men and women, but more so women.
Women that have the same unfavorable experiences but feel like they're in control. I mean, okay, well, you're going to go down with that ego ship, you know? That the Bible clearly says pride goes before destruction. And if you look at the opposite of that, that means humility, which is the opposite of pride, goes before increase, which is the opposite of destruction.
Amen.
So if you're humble enough to realize that you don't have all of the answers and you've tried, God has put people in the earth to help you come to the realization so that you can confront yourself and make a decision to make healthier decisions. You know, if the God complex of, I have this, I've accomplished so much, I, not realizing that everything you've accomplished, there's been a force that's been with you that's opened those doors, that got you into those rooms, that got you into that job, that got you into those situations. Anytime you start,
that's got you out of situation.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime you think it's you,
yes,
then your destruction is imminent. Your reminder of who really got you there is imminent. The one thing you want to do is stay humble through this journey, no matter how successful you become. The God complex, I promise you, you will experience a fall from grace. But the best thing that we could do is elevate, continue to experience the blessings, and acknowledge that, yes, we played a part, but ultimately there's a creator that begins where we end. There's a creator that took it after I did all I could do. I stood and somebody else added a blessing to my situation.
Yes.
And if you have that mindset, then you're never going to have the God complex. I, me.
Right.
The minute you think you have it all figured out, you will get a healthy reminder that you don't.
The wrestler, Roddy Piper, rest in peace, would often say, just when you think you know all the answers, I change the question. So, yes, that meteoric rise, as you said, can be a fall from grace.
Yes, usually the fall from grace usually is not followed by a padded landing.
Yes. For those that are just coming in, thank you. This is author, motivational speaker, Matthew C. Horne. If you have any questions, the link is there. I want to shift back to, and this is for the women of all ages. Again, being soft and gentle and feminine. For those that may not quite understand that, or maybe don't believe that, or maybe in transition and getting back to that, what would you suggest them do, or where to start or begin?
Okay, to become a softer woman, number one is to acknowledge that you have not gotten the outcomes that you wanted in the dating space. Number two, undertake the education to help you to get the outcomes that you want. There are many anointed men and women who are chosen to talk about the subject matter. Just like you went to college to get a degree, just like you went to see a loan officer to learn how to prepare to get a mortgage, and you saw a credit specialist, there's an undertaking of education that must happen if you want to get the results with men, the type of men you want to be with, and you want to find out what they're looking for. There's books like mine, How to Be Appealing to Successful Black Men for Black Women. You have your T.D. Jakes, you have your Tony Gaskins, you have your Stefan Speaks, your Stefan Labussier, you have your Devin Franklins. You have many men who are giving you point blank revelation and knowledge of what it takes to prepare yourself for the kind of man that you want. And you want to have the right kind of thirst for knowledge to undertake and seek out these messages. Find the elder who has the type of relationship and marriage that you want, and sit under her feet. You have to understand that there are life rafts out there. There are vehicles out there that will take you to where you want to go, but they're out there and you have to seek them. And if you seek, you're going to find.
Now, for those who are in the mindset of, I'm not going to go chasing after any man, they're going to have to come to me. What would you say about that?
Good luck with that. I'm joking. You want to make yourself available to a man. If a man is showing interest, like, don't play any games and all that kind of stuff. You want to make yourself available to a man, and that's the best thing that I can say. Meet that man with the same energy and effort that he is presenting to you.
And that's for people across the board?
Yeah, that's everybody. If a man is showing interest, then how is that going to help you? If you're actually interested in this man, but you want to play like you aren't, play like you're not as interested as he, like it's silly.
Because honestly, you have people, unfortunately, and perhaps media, that will suggest that. That will suggest manipulation tactics to reel them in, if you will.
Yeah, manipulation, like I said, that manipulation is a byproduct of a person not trusting themselves. People who trust themselves don't manipulate; they just present themselves.
Agreed.
But a manipulator, if you want a whole man, you want a successful man, but you meet him with manipulation, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to say this person doesn't know themselves. This person has not accepted themselves. In order to use misdirection to get what they want, that's a dangerous person. And then the people who are giving that advice, who has it worked for? I mean, you have to start asking yourself some very simple questions that are based on what's right in front. Like who has the manipulation and misdirection? Who has that worked for? I mean, would a man prefer a woman that's just straight up and meeting him the same way that he's meeting her? Or does he want to jump through 50 hoops? Unnecessary hoops. The only man that succumbs to manipulation is a man that doesn't love and trust himself.
And I feel perhaps haven't healed or has not healed from past hurts, because truth be told, men get hurt too. We may not speak about it often, but I believe they do. I know some do.
It is true. It's true, but the bottom line is that you never focus on the other person. Whatever makes its way into your space is a reflection of who you are. And so the focus should be becoming the absolute best version of yourself, learning from experiences, undertaking whatever needs to be done in order to get you to where you want to go. The focus should be, it begins and ends with you. Whatever makes its way into your space is a reflection of you. And until you adopt that mindset, you're going to be unstable. And if you're unstable, you're going to invite the presence of other unstable people.
Yes. Question, and I know you've heard this many, many times. Why is it here in 2023, there are some women that still believe they, or what they may have, change a man?
They're looking to change a man, you said?
The women, and here in 2023, still with the mindset that they, or what they may have, can change a man.
Those are women who, once again, don't love themselves. People who love themselves present themselves. They don't present anything in the material world that they have. You know, your degrees, your house, your job, your decorations. That's part of the temporal world. That can disappear just as fast as it can.
Yes.
So if you identify with the material world, then that means that you're not really at one and at peace with yourself, because you are the only thing that you can take through this life. The other things can come and go, but guess what? As long as you're here, you're here. And you want to focus, like I said, once again, you want to focus on becoming the absolute best person that you can be, that is prepared for and aligned with the outcomes that you want to have. That's what you should do. So a person who loves themselves is not looking to change anyone. They're just looking to show up as themselves and see who's congruent and who's compatible with who they are.
If a person makes a mistake, because as you said, nobody's perfect, are you measuring the degree of the mistake? Or, again, as I mentioned earlier, are there certain, or should there be certain deal breakers?
Yeah,
Or is it something?
I'm sorry. Please continue.
It's
I
okay.
apologize.
No, go ahead.
If you know yourself, then you're going to tell that person your deal breakers.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Definitely.
or if you see them approaching that line, you're going to let them know, like, hey, I know where this could go, but don't do it, because we probably can't come back from it.
Popman Valley, welcome, says, ride and die. I think my options.
I'm not able to see that. I think, is that smoke?
It looks like a magnifying glass. I think.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Man, can you
Sorry.
elaborate on that? And while you do, AH has made another comment. Some are too greedy, worrying about what they think they're going to miss out on versus what they can avoid. Enough pain and loss will teach you you will lose enough to not rebound. Awesome comment, AH.
Yeah, that's an evolved perspective that AH has introduced. There's never
Yes.
there's when you know yourself, and especially if you've had certain experiences, there's no fear of missing out. The desire to avoid the repetition of a mistake has to be greater than the curiosity of not paying attention to what you see.
And AH says, say it again.
The desire to avoid, must be greater than the desire, to go past those glaring red flags of what you see. And everything keeps coming back to the person. Your experiences are a direct reflection of who you are, your level of personal evolution and growth. We all have enough life experiences to teach us, but everyone has the choice of whether they're going to take away from those experiences. And that's where we've landed, especially with this conversation. We have to start loving ourselves enough to not blame and to take accountability and to grow. And when you do that, once again, like I said, you're enlightened, meaning that you can see things quicker. There's light surrounding you. You can see things. So all of these nuanced things that we're introducing about people and toxicity and all these characteristics and things like that, it all can be summed up into working on yourself. Because the more that you work on yourself, the better situations that you're going to find yourself in. And that's going to translate to better outcomes. As long as you're focusing on other people, you're never going to reach the place of growth that you can actually have the experiences that you want to have.
Absolutely. Popman Valley says, me. If a woman want me, she need to know me. Thank you, Popman. Your thoughts on that, sir?
I think if two people want each other, it does benefit to get to know one another. That's part of gauging compatibility, is that desire to get to know someone. And I think that's pretty straightforward.
Okay, so let's travel back to the late Kevin Samuels.
Okay.
Do you or are you in agreement with much of what he spoke about, or just bits and pieces? What are your thoughts on that? And do you think he was actually trying to edify and uplift Black women, even though his delivery may have deemed to be a bit harsh? Well, what's your take on that?
The Godfather didn't tell one lie.
Oh. Let me put my mic on mute for this one.
And I think it's a good place for us to end this. I have to get something to eat in a minute, but I came here straight from the gym. The Godfather, Kevin Samuels. He didn't tell one lie. I listened to virtually his entire catalog. Like I said, my book came out. My book, How to Be a Pillar to Successful Black Men for Black Women, came out right when the pandemic hit, and that's when he started talking to Black women. So essentially, we hit the same market at the same time. And so I was sitting there like everybody else, just nothing to do, watching his content. And everything that he said, all of the successful Black men at the cookout, all these six-figure guys just kind of sitting around, Kevin Samuels' name will come up. And they're like, yeah, what y'all think about it? And everybody's like, hey, he ain't told no lies. And we would just move on. Like, we didn't have this, bro party and Kevin Samuels and this and that. We just, the man said fit, feminine, friendly, and cooperative. The man introduced very healthy standards. Okay. Fit, feminine, friendly, and cooperative. And then for the men, he says making six figures for 3 years or more, it's a prerequisite, but he says dignity, integrity, morals, and ethics is more important than the money. And that's when I said, okay, I can really delve deeper into this man's philosophy when he focused on the character and not just the money. If a woman deemed his delivery harsh, understand that there's an epidemic of non-marriage in our community, and there's no other approach to undo the indoctrination that Black women are facing that's keeping them single. It's not just the white supremacist power structure that has 1 in 4 Black women that are ever going to be married. It's the fact that they're showing up to quality men and in a state that's not congruent with who these men are and what they're looking for. Okay. And when you have a man like Kevin Samuels, who, when you ask the question of did he do it in love and did he want to progress Black women? Yes, he did it in love because he told you the truth. Ma'am, have you considered the trade gap? There's only 10% or 15% of Black men making the $100,000 a year. Have you considered the $60,000? Like, he was trying to show Black women to not be delusional in their desires and their thoughts, and to actually give them a chance. He was trying to bring us together. That's what he was trying to do. And when you have a group of women while he's alive, and even after he passed, to say, I'm married now, I'm engaged, my marriage is better. Like, the man gave solutions. If you notice in the real world, if someone doesn't want to see you progress, they're going to withhold information and knowledge. If you have a man that's giving you point blank solutions, that man must have a desire for something that's in terms of elevating the Black race, helping Black women to end the marriage epidemic, and ultimately to bring us together as Black men and women. And that's how I viewed his existence. And I made a video when he passed. I waited for some time, and his live streams were still in my algorithm for months. And and I still was focusing in on his message and his live streams. I was watching them, and I realized that it wasn't it wasn't his tone, it was his truth. And he was exposing too much. Like, he was exposing the things that women knew. It's like a lot of women called into his show, and I would say about 85% of women over the age of 35 or 36 lied about their age. I'm telling you, like people in the comments, like, ain't no way that woman's 29 or 32, whatever she's saying. She, like I say, they're already in a manipulative state, when they call in. And this man is telling them the truth of why their situation is the way that it is. They don't even let this man finish a sentence. They're just being disrespectful. They're over talking him. And this man was actually trying to help them. So consequently, a lot of black men who watched Kevin Samuels, they saw some things that they could not unsee. When you see the same type of woman called into the show night in and night out, and to see that they want this 6'5" man that drives a Mercedes that makes $500,000 a year, like they were all over the place, and to see that on a nightly basis, it actually enlightened them to know which type of women to deal with and which type of women to stay away from. A lot of men are better for having encountered Kevin Samuels. A lot of women, once again, I found my husband. I'm engaged now. I have a high quality man. I have a greater appreciation, a renewed appreciation for my husband because I appreciate him more. That man made an impact that is undeniable and it's based in results. And like I said, once again, I'm at the cookout with the successful black men, and I concur. The man didn't tell one lie.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And AH, I brought that up because when Mr. Horne and myself spoke, he mentioned that this particular book was almost Kevin Samuelish. So that's the reason why I brought that up. So it's no disrespect to Mr. Horne, and he knows that. So just so you know, we've discussed that. But I do understand what you mean. So, Mr. Horne, I think you have some new customers and people who will be tuning in to you. Hopefully, we'll have you back, speak about more of your books, and have more of these conversations that I truly believe we need to have between men and women.
Absolutely, and I just want to thank you again for having me on today, and I really enjoyed our time together, and I hope that the people who are listening in were actually uplifted and blessed and enlightened in some sort of way, and that everyone is better than when we came on this broadcast, all of us. And I'm looking forward to doing it again. Once again, everybody, thank you. If you want to check out my books, once again, I have How to Get Beautiful Women and Everything Else You Want from Life, in addition to the book that our discussion tonight was based on, How to Be Appealing to Successful Black Men for Black Women. They're both available at www.matthewchorne.com. If you're in need of any dating coaching, message me at matthewchorne23@gmail.com. And if you want to stay connected, I am at Matthew C. Horne all over social media. Thank you once again for having me on, and I look forward to making this happen sooner than later again.
I as well. Enjoy the remainder of your Sunday, sir.
Absolutely. Do the same.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone who tuned in. That was author, motivational speaker, and dating coach, Matthew C. Horne. His contact information is in the description of this video. So everyone, make sure, if you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy the remainder of your Sunday. Be safe, be well. You know the rest. Be healthier. Until next time, goodbye for now.